You know, the Gerrit Cole acquisition by the Yankees, with all the things that have happened over the last few months, we haven't really talked a lot about the offseason storylines, but this was the acquisition everyone was waiting for, and at least for one night, boy, did he look good.
Oh, and Greeny, he has to. If you look at any weakness with this Yankees team and how dominant they were last season, the weakness was their starting pitching. They went out and fixed that by getting Gerrit Cole, but you got to remember, this is a staff that is still missing Luis Severino, Domingo Germán, Masahiro Tanaka's on the injured list because he got hit with a line drive by Giancarlo Stanton in an exhibition game. And so you think about how important Gerrit Cole is to this Yankees team. We can have so much fun talking about their lineup and all their stars, but if Gerrit Cole does not perform, it was so fun to see him go out, lights out. Last night, 98 miles an hour, sick breaking ball in the dirt. He looked as good as advertised.
Yeah, and then Judge has a couple of hits last night, and Stanton hits one I think still hasn't come down, if you will. What do you think, all things considered? I know it's just one night, but it felt like a very good night for the Yankees.
It felt like an amazing night, and honestly, to see Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton both in the lineup, and both of them healthy, I feel like we can talk so many people within this lineup, but if those two, Greeny, are healthy throughout the season, this is a team that wins it all. Not just Gerrit Cole, not just everybody else, but those two power bats. Just imagine an opposing pitcher trying to figure out how to get those guys off base, and they have not been healthy together. They have not been able to be on the field together. We saw it for a glimpse last night. Let's see if we can see it for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Hembo, as you were saying that, had the stat up there. When they're together for the Yankees and they're healthy, they win 2 out of every 3 games. They just haven't had much of a chance to do it. Let's see what they can. Are the Dodgers equipped, as good as they are, to handle the absence of Kershaw for an extended period of time?
They are. And Clayton Kershaw's the big name, and everyone thinks he's the big ace, but he's not. Walker Buehler's their ace. He's the best pitcher. You could argue he's the best pitcher in the National League. As good as he has been, he doesn't have the stature and the same name as Clayton Kershaw. Everyone thinks of him, especially if you're not a huge fan watching the last couple years of the Dodgers. But not only with Walker Buehler, we saw a glimpse of Dustin May. He was the one who ended up getting the start over Clayton Kershaw last night. I mean, he has some stupid stuff. Young player coming up, making a name for himself. Watch out for him as well. And Ross Stripling is another pitcher within this staff. Remember, he had that no-hitter, almost no-hitter, 2 years ago, just a 3 ERA in 2018. So this staff is definitely equipped. Clayton Kershaw is the name, so I think a lot of Dodger fans think, oh no, if we don't have him, we can't go. But there's a lot of dudes behind him that can definitely handle the ball.
Yeah, bottom line of it is this. We saw the 2 teams who are prohibitive favorites in baseball last night. And in their openers, they won by a combined score of 12-2. Very quickly, before I get to your list this morning, I just wanted to ask you about the expanded playoffs. That's another huge part of the story yesterday. They announced they will go from 10 teams to 16 this year. So there'll be 16 out of 30 teams will make it. The first round will be best of 3. Every game taking place on the home field of the higher seed. And then it'll go to the traditional format after that. And in a season in which I suppose it makes sense to be throwing a lot of stuff up against the wall and see what sticks, what did you think of that decision?
I love it just because, honestly, October baseball is what it's about. I like the regular season, but when it's 162 games, let's be real, everyone's tuning in October. For this year, to give these teams an added bonus of more baseball, over half the teams will be able to continue to play in October, at least for a few more games. It's huge. I mean, we need to see a lot more baseball, and especially when you get to the playoffs. You know this, Greeny. I mean, that's when everyone's tuning in and excited about Major League Baseball. So I love it. 16 teams. Let's go.
Okay, I'm completely with you on that. Now let's get to the real fun. So you inspired this idea yesterday. You were on with me, and I asked you, with Mookie Betts getting the 2nd biggest contract in baseball, where do you think he falls on the list of the best players in the sport? It got us to thinking, we need you, Jess, to put together a fundamental list. Who are the 5 best players in baseball, position players? In your opinion, go.
Let's have some fun. I got number 5 on my list is Christian Yelich. He doesn't get a ton of attention because he plays for the Milwaukee Brewers. He was the MVP in the National League. He has the sweetest swing in the game to me, Greeny. Everything that he's been able to do on the field, his number is just .340 batting average. The last 2 seasons, 57 home runs. Wrap your mind around that. Then I go to number 4, Juan Soto, young player. 21 years old. What he's been able to accomplish thus far in the game has been unbelievable. His numbers, what he's been able to put up, 34 home runs last season. You put him up back-to-back, even to the greatest in Mike Trout, and you'll see Juan Soto, what he can do, especially the future and what it holds. Then I got at number 3 is Alex Bregman. This is a player, Greeny, I get geeked up about. I mean, he is someone that finished second in the MVP voting last season. What he can do all around as a player, watch him defensively. He's got a chip on his shoulder this year. Why? Because of the sign stealing. He wants to prove that his numbers have been legit over the last 2 seasons. Then I move to number 1, of course. It's gonna be the greatest player that we've talked about over the last, 7 seasons, Mike Trout. He's owned the best batting line in the AL 5 seasons in a row. Last to do that was Mickey Mantle, Greeny. Finished as MVP or MVP runner-up in 7 of the last 8 seasons. I know it gets old. We hear Mike Trout all the time. Oh my gosh, and I was forgetting my number 2 in Mookie Betts. I totally skipped over him because I got so excited about Trout.
No problem.
Mookie Betts, to me, oh my gosh. This is a player. Last night, I had so much fun watching him. Not only is his offensive numbers been off the charts, but he's a guy, Greeny, in right field, trying to throw out a runner at second base, playing at regular depth. Just watching him on the field, you showed some of the highlights. He is a dynamic game changer. Mookie Betts, to me, even though I just said Mike Trout was number 1, Mookie Betts is the most fun player to watch anytime he's on the field, whether it's in right field or whether he's at the plate.
All right, so there's your top 5 list. Now, I thought that was phenomenal, but I want to point something out. So our man Hembo, who is my main man when it comes to all things baseball, wrote a column in which he proposes that Christian Yelich has in fact replaced Mike Trout as the best player in the sport. You have him at number 5. Everybody loves Yelich, but you have him at 5. Hembo has him at 1. What do you have to say to Mr. Hembo?
I think that it was a fun idea. I think that they were nowhere close to each other.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.